Imagine this, you're sitting on the couch and just scrolling, and all of a sudden you feel the urge. Your mind went from thinking about whatever the fuck the video was saying to nutting, to pornography, of thinking that fuck, the demon's back again. And then you continuously fight against it, and finally you relent. But I'll ask you this, was it pornography which caused the relaxation, or was it you giving yourself permission to relax? Hi, I'm Vansh, and I have helped multiple people quit pornography. I quit an addiction of 9 years and I've been free for 1.5. I've helped multiple people like Ben, my client from UK, who I helped quit pornography during his A-levels or college examinations, and he went on to get 9s and A stars and as well as be free, as you can see by this testimonial here. And then there's Rehan, who before meeting me had many problems with confidence, with anxiety, with so many things, and all of these went away as soon as I helped him quit pornography, and he went on to become a national level junior golfer, and he's constantly just focusing on that and has become very purposeful, very free, and his life has gotten 10 times better, as well as mine. A lot of people don't understand what their beliefs are like. I see pornography as a cave, right? So the thing is that you currently see the cave as a very warm, cozy, comfy place with a lot of nice things in it, right? There's a fire going on, there's a bunch of people around you, there's warmth and hide and food and whatnot. You see, at least a certain part of you sees pornography as a net benefit, that it gives you concentration, relaxation, it makes you better, it helps you, it soothes you, takes away your pain, any crap like that, right? And outside of that, freedom, this is basically you walking out of the cave, is this dark, very scary forest which you don't know what it holds. But this is just your interpretation of it. Whatever told you that in reality, this is what the cave actually looks like. There's mold growing on it, God knows what else is here, it's very dark, it's creepy, there's probably some things crawling around here. Action is never normal, never natural. It is something which is a learned behavior. You have learned that this is what it looks like, when in reality, this is its true nature. Likewise, with the forest is a little scary at first, right? But this is what it looks like. This is just some very specific parts of it, but in reality, that most of the time, it just looks like this. There's not a lot of creepy crawlies going around. There's not a lot of things which you need to fear. Instead, a lot of the things that you are fearing about it exist solely in your mind. So this is our ideal self. This is us going out into the forest, going out into freedom, and not having any sort of self-limiting beliefs that pornography helps me, pornography does this or that, which is a net benefit for me or anything else. Because at the end of the day, all of these things are self-limiting beliefs. Do you think that any person who uses, let's say, a hard drug like heroin or cocaine has any beliefs like porn helps me, or heroin helps me, or it makes me feel better, it takes away my pain, etc.? No drug can do that. No drug can take away your pain. No drug can numb your consciousness. What all of them do is you giving yourself permission to relax. So when you take alcohol, when you take pornography, when you take even heroin, you are just giving yourself permission to relax. People say that, let's say with heroin, whenever they take it, or weed or anything else, honestly, whenever they take it, their worries just go away. It's not like that. You can still be very, very stressed out when you take any kind of drug, because what is giving you the high isn't the drug, but you letting yourself have it. You letting yourself forget about the pains and whatnots of life. But in reality, what you need to understand is that it is simply a cave, and you have just gaslit yourself into thinking that it's warm and cozy and whatnot, and that freedom is scary and dark, when in reality it's bright, it's fun, it's eccentric. And this is our ideal self. This is us finally realizing that we don't need to be scared of freedom, and we can just step out and we can be free and we can embrace life. One of the most common things that I've seen in my clients is that they feel some level of fear, some level of anxiety, some level of anger, and they all think that these negative emotions are stress, and hence they want to get rid of it. They think that the emotion itself, this stress, is the problem. So what happens is that their brain, their mental surrounding, their perception of the world just goes red, alarm bells are ringing, their fucking eyes are bulging out, understanding of the world is very, very harsh right now. So what happens is that you see stress as the inherent problem, and that does not work because of two reasons. The first is that you cannot get rid of stress. Stress will always be there. And secondly, you need to understand that pornography does not fix it. It hides it into a closet for a little while, and it doesn't fix the inherent problem, which is the thing causing the stress. And as long as you don't do that, as long as you cannot accept that, cannot focus on that, it will not be helpful. Pornography, anything else will not do anything for you. Now, there's three things that you need to understand about stress. The first is that people think that they need to increase their pain tolerance, and yes, whilst that is very good, it will help you and whatnot, it isn't the thing which is keeping you trapped. Pain tolerance is not your fucking problem, because guess what, there's plenty of people with willpower, with a lot of ability to do hard things. For example, I knew the story about this guy called Jay, who was a marathon runner, and he could run marathons, he could do a bunch of shit, but he couldn't fucking quit pornography. At the same time, I know a lot of people who are very, very smart, who have gotten 100% results, like literally top 0.1% of the world in terms of their exam results, and still may have problems with women, still have problems with pornography, still have problems with being social or their health or anything else. So pain tolerance does not mean that you will quit pornography, because pornography is not a problem of you having an inability to take pain, because pain just continues to increase and increase and increase as long as you don't get rid of the reason that the pain exists. So we need to be smart about pain. Sure, willpower, discipline, etc., all of these things can help us, but they are not the thing which will make you quit pornography. You need to be smart about it. You can't just fucking bash your head against a wall and think that things will work. The second thing is that stress is a psychological operation. A psyop is something which the government, the company, or anything else will do to make you think that something which is obviously bad for you is good for you. In other words, it is propaganda. Look at people who tell you that playing video games is good for your hand-eye coordination. Maybe. But that isn't the reason that you fucking play it. That is just a cope that you have which you use to justify it. Look at a bunch of people telling themselves that alcohol or whatever increases their relaxation or whatever, when there's no physical effect, no psychological effect or neurological effect seen on their body, seen on anyone's body, which makes it so that they are more relaxed. This is them believing that it does, and hence it makes them so. You believing that it's something is good makes it good. You believing that something is bad makes it bad. Look at something like meat, let's say, right? A lot of people will see meat and they will get hungry as hell. They will see, this is going to be my dinner. Another person may see, who's perhaps vegan, vegetarian or whatever, will see that and think, oh my god, that's the flesh of a living being. How can I eat that? How can someone eat that? And they will feel an urge to vomit or something. So stress is simply a belief. So your understanding of things, of data, makes it so that you interpret it in a certain way. So let's take the example of public speaking. You have 5 minutes before you are to go on stage, and all of a sudden you start getting these physical reactions from your body, like your eyes start dilating, your ears start getting warmer, your hand and your legs start shaking, your voice and your jaw becomes more jittery, and all of these things can be interpreted in certain ways, right? So someone who's more prone to anxiety will think, okay, my ears are getting warmer so I can listen better, my eyes are dilating so I can see better, my heart or whatever is beating faster so that it can give more blood to my body and my brain and whatever, so I can perform better, my hands and my legs are shaking because I'm overflowing with energy. So interpretation of data matters. The same is with stress, because you can see stress as simply a bodily signal, and you can then see it as excitement, or you can see it as stress, something which will break you down. Placebo is a far bigger thing than a lot of people give it credit for. For example, a study in US found that even if black people have less economic certainty, have less financial stability and whatnot, or even a worse home environment, better ability to cope with anxiety or pre-depressive pangs, and in turn have better overall mental health compared to white people who are overall more supported in that regard. So you see that because more white people are more educated perhaps about mental health and whatnot, they also end up making up fake beliefs about it. They also end up being more misinformed about it. They also end up being more trapped by their beliefs. So what you need to do is actually see what's actually happening in your body, in your brain, in your thoughts, and you need to understand what they're saying. and then you need to solve for the true problem. Okay, so this is the stress graph. Cortisol is supposedly called the stress hormone, when in reality it isn't so. It is something arguably very, very useful. For example, when you wake up, one of the first things that your body releases is cortisol because it helps you wake up. The thing is though, that cortisol is meant to work in spikes. So what you see here is that the overall pattern of cortisol, in the way it's meant to be, is like this. It just goes straight and there's nothing else to it. There's a simplicity to it. And whenever, let's say, a super stressful situation comes up, like let's say a lion or whatever, which our ancestors would have had to deal with, this is when it actually spikes up because it's useful at that time. But what's happening in the modern day is that instead of having this normal cortisol cycle in that you are low like almost constantly throughout the day and you just have 1 or 2 spangs, for example, let's say with working out or with waking up, instead what happens with most people is that they just have this steady level of high level cortisol constantly throughout the day, because they do not know what stress is. They have a misinterpretation of stress. They think that their homework, their arguments with their parents, their job, their spouse or whatever are something which is actually a threat to their livelihood, when they're not. You will still be able to eat, you will still be able to breathe, you will not be immediately killed, nothing like that will happen to you like it did with our ancestors. And you need to understand that, because in this day of social media, in this day of so much over information, our brain has this ability to think that, okay, there's this information that this war is going on. Generally, when we got that information, the war would have been going like a mile or a few kilometers away. But nowadays, the war is happening thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away. So yes, whilst the war is important, you need to understand that it isn't causing you any harm right now. You will be safe. And when you understand that, your cortisol will of course return to the normal level. And when you understand this, when you understand the nature of cortisol, you will see that it will only spike up when you're going for something actually stressful. For example, a marathon or anything else like, let's say, the gym or going out for public speaking or anything else like that. Or you actually end up getting hunted by a lion. But this is when your cortisol will spike up and it will return back to normal. This is the thing that you need to do. This is the way that you need to understand your true stress. Another thing is that you need to see your stressful beliefs. People just get into these negative feedback loops where they have one negative thought, which again, you can't control your thoughts. So why the hell are you giving it so much attention? They just have this one negative thought and they continue to engage in that. They continue to entertain it, and it just spirals into something too fucking stupid, so fucking bad, so being in your head that you just end up hurting yourself. You end up hitting yourself with the own damn rake. And this is why I put a picture of this guy here, because he right now is trying to see his thoughts. People suffer more in their imagination, in their thoughts, than they do in reality. And when you start to understand that, perhaps not to the extent of this guy, and that you become a whole ass monastic individual, but just the ability to see your thoughts. For example, just starting a exercise of meditation or NSDR or Yog Nidra or anything else for like 5-10 minutes a day will have a positive impact on your life. So when you start doing these, you will gain the ability to start seeing your thoughts and then the ability to understand them. Because if you cannot see them, if you're just constantly being affected by them, instead of being able to stop them for a second and just say, bro, hold up, let me see what you're talking about and we'll see what we can do with it. And you will most of the time find out that the beliefs you have about, let's say, pornography, about the things that you believe are stressful, about anything in general, are being overblown way out of fucking context. And when you start seeing that, your ability to cope with things, your ability to actually solve them, because you are no longer over worrying about it, but instead being able to see it for what it truly is and hence solve it, will make you way more fucking peaceful. So this is a problem of brainwashing, and you need to understand that. The only time to quit is right now. And guess what? Your brain has a bunch of these self-limiting beliefs, these brainwashings even, that it's constantly telling you that, bro, it's not the time to quit right now. You should wait for summer holidays or whatever, right? And when the summer holidays come, you get relaxed. You don't feel the stress of your job or anything else, and you think that you should relax or whatever, right? And so how do you relax? How do you stress relief? Exactly. You go back to it and you just forget about quitting it or whatever. So It doesn't matter at what time you try to quit pornography, because I believe that it will have positive impacts for you regardless. I think I showed my client right here. Yeah, this guy. So Ben quitted his pornography addiction during his A levels, and he said that it went on to make his results better because he got so much of a confidence boost from it, from thinking that yeah, I can fucking conquer my years of addiction. Why the fuck can't I conquer this little question on a piece of paper? And he had this such a confidence boost from it that he went on to get better results in his exams and went on to study better, went on to be more motivated, etc. And same with Rehan overall, because he conquered this thing that was holding him, shackling him for years. And the quicker you break these shackles, the better your life will get, not in just terms of pornography killing the person inside of, killing the fire inside of you, but also being free, being able to do whatever the fuck you want, not being fucking shackled by this demon inside of your head. As said before, there's plenty of self-limiting beliefs that your brain will have. For example, willpower is a very common one that I've seen, in that I don't have enough fucking willpower and that I just need to constantly increase it and increase it and increase it. But guess what? Pornography isn't a problem of willpower or of discipline. It's one of mindfulness. It's one of self-limiting beliefs which we need to take care of. There is no perfect timing. The only perfect time is right now, because it's a fucking shackle which just continues to grow thicker and thicker. So why the fuck not tear it out right now when you easily can? And the same with stress. Pornography isn't used because of stress, but it's used because of self-limiting beliefs, and it's something which is distracting you from actually solving the fucking problem which is causing you the stress. So you will see that there's a bunch of self-limiting beliefs, and you will see that in totality there's three parts of our brain, in that the blue part is the human or the logical part of our brain, which basically justifies pornography or whatever by saying that it increases our concentration, it increases our benefits, it increases our relaxation or whatever else. There's the mammalian or the emotional brain, which thinks porn makes me feel good, porn takes away my stress, porn helps me be numb, and these are the reasons that it uses it. And then there's the reptilian brain, which is more worried about stress, survival, making sure that your genes pass on to the next generation, etc. and etc. The thing you need to understand though is that all of these parts of your brain have self-limiting beliefs regarding pornography, regarding what it means, and hence they think that it has benefits. So I'll ask you this: which part of your brain are you? I'll give you like 10 seconds to think, or you can just skip 10 seconds and pause or whatever. You probably had this belief that, okay, I'm the reptilian brain, I'm the mammalian or the emotional brain, I'm the logical brain or some bullshit, right? It was a trick question. You are none of them. You are this guy. You are not the brain part itself, right? Because you exist everywhere. You are the consciousness, the ego. And what you need to understand is that rather than being limited by these self-limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm this part of the brain or I'm that part of the brain, you are the one which is controlling them. You are the one who is taking in the thoughts that are produced by them. For example, the human part of the brain, the logical part of the brain will say something like, ooga booga, 2 plus 2 is equals to I need to use porn. The mammalian part of the brain will say that, ooga booga, I feel sad, I need to use porn. Reptilian brain will say, I need to pass on my genes, I need to use porn, or some shit, right? The point is that these all are just generating thoughts, and you are the one, the ego, which is controlling them. This is why I say that you are not affected by stress. You are the one who's causing the stress relief. You are just being plagued by these thoughts. You are the general who's controlling these soldiers. These three soldiers, these all are three soldiers who think that pornography is something good in their life, right? This is the, what's it called, the reptilian brain, emotional brain, and the human brain or whatever, right? So all of these three are scared shitless because they think, oh my god, what if we quit porn? It will not help us, it will not help us at all, we will die, blah blah blah. And so what you need to understand is that you need to go towards the pros and cons sheets, and I think you should just actively take a fucking pen and paper or open it on a Google Docs or whatever and just write out the pros and cons. And what you will eventually realize is that after like 5-10 minutes of research is that, okay, concentration, it doesn't increase it. Relaxation is worsened overall because I'm constantly feeling guilty about it. Stress relief, this is just me doing it. Mood, it overall worsens it, blah blah blah. And when you start understanding it, all of these things, all of these beliefs that you have about pornography, in that it is the net positive, these will go away because you start thinking, this has no fucking advantage, and so the reasons for me to use porn, the pros, end up becoming nothing. So this is what the goal is. You need to de-brainwash yourself, and you need to understand that all of these things are just simply holding you back. So one thing that you need to understand is that you need to barter, you need to talk individually as the general to each and every one of these soldiers, and you just have 3, so it's not that hard, right? So the human brain and the reptilian brain are pretty easy to deal with. For example, the human brain will just say, I justify pornography because it helps with concentration, it helps with relaxation, it helps with being more social, or some bullshit like that, which you're quite literally taking and decreasing your fucking testosterone after nutting. I don't see how it's doing that. So more props to you. Again, this is how any and every kind of fucking person who has any kind of problematic usage, whether it be with a fucking substance like alcohol or heroin or whatever, or non-substantive like gambling or reels or pornography, like in this instance, they will always have these bullshit self-limiting beliefs which they think are logical, but in reality they're not, right? And you're not alone in that. I've had them. The fucking golfer guy who's playing on a national level has had them. That person who's getting top 0.1% grades has even had them. So you're not alone in that, right? But you still need to get rid of them. This is your responsibility. The reptilian brain is more about making sure that you're well fed, you are actually fucking, you are doing this, that, blah, blah, blah. And all of these are simply thoughts which you can simply ignore. No one has died from not having sex. No one has died from taking a little bit of stress. The same kind of process can be used for the reptilian brain, because you just need to see that, okay, this guy just cares about making sure that the genes pass on, making sure that I don't die and actually survive, and making sure that I am like relatively have a lot of resources. So this is what that guy cares about, and I need to understand that, okay, this guy cares about stress, this guy doesn't like stress because it sees that as a threat. So I need to understand that stress isn't something bad. I needed to understand that stress is simply something normal, a part of our lives, and that can only be done with mindfulness, because it will immediately jump to conclusions. So I need to hold it back for a second. I need to become more mindful, start seeing my thoughts, start separating myself from them, and I will be able to see that, okay, the whatever thought that I had is just a thought, and I'm not being affected right now. I will not die in the next 10 seconds. This is not the same as me running away from a tiger. This is just my teacher or my boss or my spouse screaming at me. I don't need to worry that much about it. I need to solve it, yes, but that's what I should focus on. I should solve the solution, not focus on just the problems. Now, these two are pretty easy. One thing more for the reptilian brain is that you need to understand that you are not your thoughts. So here's how I'll explain that to you. Close your eyes for like 10 seconds and just think, what will my next thought be? Alright, so you probably had some thoughts. You thought like, okay, maybe I'll just count for the next 10 seconds. Maybe I need to do this, I need to do that. Maybe fuck, an urge came in or whatever, right? But I need you to understand one thing. You are not your thoughts. You are not your impulses. You are not your urges. You exist separately from them, and you, the real you, the self, the ego, as I said before, is a part which basically does not like pornography, does not like being a slave, and your brain just believes that it has a positive aspect to it, right? And so we need to disprove that. As said before, I'm repeating things so that I make sure that you can learn, right? Now, the mammalian or the emotional brain is, I'd argue, not difficult, but more like in that you need to dive more into it. Like, it will take slightly more time. It's not difficult, it just takes more time. So the emotional brain is the one which I and a bunch of my clients have struggled the most with. And what you need to understand is that the emotional brain is the one which is practically the one in control for you. It will say something like, I don't like to feel pain. I feel guilty doing this. I feel guilty doing that. I feel shame when I don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And what you need to do is you mix the things that I told you. So for example, logical breakdown from the logical aspect, de-brainwashing, and being mindful of your emotions, being mindful of your thoughts, which you used for the reptilian or primal brain, and you just use both of them with a fucking journal or something at the side of you, and you just sit down and you just observe your thoughts, you start to actually break them down, you start to actually question them. And this will be a very uncomfortable process, but it will have the most yield, right? So this is something that you need to do on your own, or you can sign up for the coaching. One thing to understand though is that after you as a general do this, your soldiers will stop being scared shitless, and they will all of a sudden become smart, competent people who are willing to fight for you, because a war isn't fun alone, and they will be your hand and legs which help you win the war, which help you conquer, which help you actually go towards a more happy, fulfilling, free life. And that is how you win against pornography. I hope you like this video. If you want to buy my course, which is on pre-sale right now, because I'll be increasing the price later, it's in the link below. And cheers.